I didn't wake up one day and decide I wanted to manage artists. I said yes to a situation I probably shouldn't have at the time, but it's led me to where I am today and building this podcast from the manager's chair that I don't regret forever. Otherwise, I would not be sitting here today if this one simple yes didn't happen. Taking you back, I recently moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I was new there. I knew a couple people here and there, but didn't really know too much about the city. I knew it was a big party town. I knew they had a whole strip of bars on Broadway with a bunch of clubs and live music and DJs playing. But I didn't know anything else besides that. I had a friend of mine that said, "Come out. We're all going to the club. Come out." It was like a Wednesday night. And I'm like, I don't really go out on Wednesdays. I stick to the weekends usually. But I was new to the city. So I said, yes, let's go. And it's about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. We head downtown. We start drinking, had a couple drinks in our systems, and met up with some girls that he knew and started mingling. And it's a typical night out. And next thing I know, I get introduced to this girl who was an influencer model at the time. And we started to hit it off on some friend stuff. We weren't, going anywhere with it, but it was more just friendly advice. She asked me what I did. I said I managed influencers at the time. I helped create YouTube TV shows. I helped build audiences on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. She's like, "Oh, nice. I'd love to get lunch with you sometime and learn how you can help me grow my platform. Help me get more modeling gigs. Help me get brand partnerships." Because this was 6 years ago when brand partnerships were just giving out money left and right. I said, "Let's do it." And as we got to build our relationship on the business side of things, she was like, "I actually have a boyfriend." I was like, "Oh, that's cool. What does he do?" He goes, "She's trying to be a big music artist in the country space." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. How's he doing with that?" He goes, "He's kind of struggling. He got a small fan base. He doesn't really know how to build his TikTok at the time when TikTok was really exploding artists onto the scene." And I was like, "Well, would he want any help on that end of things?" Thinking no mind of the music side of things. I was strictly focusing on the social media aspect and how I can grow that platform. Because I knew if you can grow that platform, you can kind of build it in many different ways, whether that's with streaming, whether that's with brand partnerships, whether that's just make money on the back end of the AdSense. And she's like, "Let me put you in contact with him, see what he wants." So I got in contact with this artist, and him and I were just kind of chatting. We're like, "Hey, here's your strategy plan. Here's how I would build your audience, and here's what I would and wouldn't do. Here's how I would recreate your social media strategy." Because at the time, his accounts were kind of dead. I would kind of say they were kind of shadow banned in a way. So I was like, "Why don't we just create new accounts? Let's build it fresh, and let's really push your music out there." He's like, "Let's do it." And at that time, we signed a contract with just the social media aspect side of things, and eventually became, as you will learn throughout these stories, it became a full music management contract and all that kind of stuff. And we can dive into the contracts one day. But sticking to the story, I told him he needed to create shock value, create entertainment value with his music. The music was good. I saw the work ethic was there. He's willing to post videos every day, which is the first step. You have to be consistent with posting. You have to have the time to do that and the knowledge to do that. But the other thing was you needed shock back value and you needed entertainment value for his songs. So my thought process was going out to the clubs and all these different things were just entertainment for me. I didn't really think much of it. But as I did that, I created relationships with many different women on the scene, and they're all very good looking. They're all models and influencers and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, "Why don't we start putting them in your videos and create scripts around your song? So if it's a breakup song, why don't we create a breakup script where the girl walks up to you, it's shock value, a couple words here and there, and then it dives into your song, and it makes the girl feel a type of way." Slowly but surely, we were going from 10,000 views to 100,000 views to millions of views within a very short time period. And when I say short time period, I mean this is like a 6 month process. So I'm fast forwarding a little bit. But over these 6 months, we started to see this traction come. We started to see his streaming go up. And at that time, I didn't really know much about the music industry other than I've done marketing and branding for other music artists. And I understood, it's a direct correlation. But I didn't know how to get a publishing deal, how to get a record deal, how the ins and outs of who to meet, who to connect with to get an artist on tour. So what I did was I had relationships in the college scene. So I said, "Why don't we get you on a college tour? Why don't we start building your strategy outside of content and start getting you in front of a real fan base?" And this is a little cheat code for any artist that wants to make money quick. These college campuses, the fraternities and sororities, have a lot of money and they have a specific budget, especially in the South, towards entertainment, where they'll pay artists to come play for 3 hours for the tailgate. They'll pay you to come do just live shows on Saturday nights for their date parties and stuff like that. So what you can do is you reach out to the fraternities and sororities and start partnering with them and go work a show for them, and you can get paid anywhere from like 2,000 to 5,000 to 10,000 a show I've seen. And if you're even bigger, already have an audience, sometimes they'll pay you upwards of $20,000, and you can make money very quickly doing that, which will help, with production costs, with setting up travel times and your hotels and your flights and your gas. 'Cause all that stuff adds up really quickly, and you can be in the red very fast as an artist if you're not touring smartly. Another thing is when you're first starting off, you have to tour very, very carefully. You do not want to start flying to California if you're on the East Coast or vice versa, where you have to fly your band out. You have to pay for food. You have to pay for travel. And we'll break that down as we go into further episodes and how exactly touring budget should work. But as we went around these stories, we started noticing a lot of traction. Pre-save campaigns were coming through really well. And we got in with the distribution company, and he's like, why don't we just make this a full-time management thing? We made a full-time management thing, and I learned as I went, and I failed many times, trust me. As I started meeting more people in the publishing industry and the record industry, I started learning and picking up on the language and learning how to speak. That's like one of the most important things as an artist manager you'll learn is you have to learn the language of how these guys speak, what do they want to hear, what do they want to know, all those different types of things. So you start building relationships, and the next thing you have to do is build a champion. So find your champion in the industry, and it can't be your best friend, your mom. Those people already support you. We already know that. We need to find champions that support you in the industry. So that's a publishing A&R, a record label A&R, a marketing person at a record label. It's got to be someone that's higher up at one of these companies that can help move the needle for your music. And once we found the champion, they will then spread the word to other publishers, to other labels, to other artist managers, to other artists themselves, because they have relationship with these guys, and they'll put you in rooms that you couldn't get into. So this podcast, really what it's about, and From the Manager's Chair is about, is why I wanted to start it, is I'm trying to create real conversations that happen in the room that you might not be in yet. Or if you are in, you can learn something and how to maneuver in these rooms to get to where you want to get to. And it's stuff that you only really learn once you're in the room. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I can just read a book or go to college or they teach you growing up. It's just straight in the room content that I'm going to be giving you guys, and straight data from what I've done and from my experiences. And I'll talk about the fails and the success stories and what I've done wrong, where I would move differently if I had another chance to do it again, or as I continue to grow my music artist management company, where I'm taking it and where I see the future going, where I see social media going, where I see labels going, publishers going, all these different things we'll be able to break down within this episode of From the Manager's Chair. And make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you guys ask questions in the comment section. Let me know what you guys have questions about that maybe I haven't answered, or you want me to dive deeper into, what you like, what I have to say, what you don't like to say. Like, I'm here for it, I know this comes with negative comments, all that kind of stuff. I've been through this. I've seen all my clients go through this. So it's about having tough skin, but I want to get all the questions answered for you guys. I really want to dive deeper, and I'll show Excel sheets and breakdowns of like budgets and stuff like that and how I would go about it, and contracts. I'll show old contracts eventually and stuff like that for you guys. You guys can really get the inside scoop of what's going on in the artist management community. Where I was in life was very much a social media guy. I always say when you want to break into an industry, whether that's the tech industry, the music industry, the influencer industry, the athlete space, whatever you want to break into, you must be good at one thing. And it's almost not be good. You got to be great at one thing and figure out what that is. Are you great at connections? Are you great at social media? Are you great at the digital side, the ad side? Are you great at the creative space, hearing a song, hearing lyrics and be like, that's going to be a hit? Figure out what you're great at and just go all in on that. I came from a social media background, so I help YouTubers, YouTube TV shows, TikTok shows, PR. I knew how to grow from scratch. I knew how to take an audience from 0 to hundreds of thousands of followers within a year. And once I learned that, I just copy and pasted it. So if it was a YouTube client or a music client, it was the same exact strategy. maybe a couple tweaks here and there, but I just copy and pasted it to the next thing. So as I did that, I built an audience over time and I built a reputation. Okay, he can do this for me. And I started getting more and more clients, and that's kind of how I fell into this. And the next thing I was good at was saying yes to everything. A lot of times I didn't want to. I just said yes to anything. Hey, you want to go to dinner? Yes. Hey, you want to go to the club? Yes. Hey, you want to go to this networking event? Yes. Even if I didn't think it really correlated to what I wanted to do, I always just said yes because you never know who you're going to meet. Because if I said no to a lot of these opportunities, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you guys. I wouldn't be sitting here creating this channel. So you have to say yes. That's the first thing. Is say yes. Next thing is figure out what you're great at. I had to learn this all the hard way in the music industry. A lot of the times, the scariest part was making the wrong decision and not knowing what decision to make because I'd never been through it before. And I wouldn't say being scared of failure, but being scared to fail my clients. It wasn't really I was scared to fail. I didn't want to affect them because I know artists, athletes, influencers, they really only get one shot at this. If you're lucky, you get one shot. And I really wanted to help them make their dreams come true. Having an athlete background, I really had a competitive edge to me that I wouldn't let them fail. It didn't matter what it took. It didn't matter all the screaming matches you go on behind the scenes, the disagreements that go on behind the scenes, and the relationships that you burn as you move up in the rank, and relationship that I wish I didn't burn. But you don't really know until you know. So a lot of the times I was building these relationships and getting in these meetings, I didn't really know what to say. I almost felt kind of in the room, and they would ask me questions like in the publishing world, like splits and writer splits. And I had no idea what they were talking about. I had to like almost fake it till I made it at that point. And I was really just learning the language like I was talking about. And I failed many times. I've been in a couple meetings where they were like, yeah, these guys don't know what they're doing. They don't have anything. We got rejected probably 50 times by other management companies trying to pick me up. Or for my artist, a lot of the publishers were like, no. A lot of the labels were like, no, we don't know what music he's making. We don't understand the music he's making. Is it country? Is it hip hop? Is it rock? Is it pop? Is it sad boy? Is it happy? So we really had to zero in on all the constructive feedback we're getting from all these people. And a lot of people can take it personal and be like, well, F that person or F that. I really took it as, okay, we need to really zone in on the branding. We really need to zone in on the language. I need to learn more. So I started looking up on how other people are doing it. I started calling peers that already were at the stage I was doing it. I was partnering with other management companies on day-to-day work just so I could really learn the nuances of how this really worked and almost get into the Boys and Girls Club, they call it, where you have to break in. So I was really learning how to do that. And once you pick up on the language, it's game changer. How do you build these connections? The first thing, there's two things I did. And I'm not saying this is how you should do it, but this is how I did it. I went to clubs a lot and I went to writers' rounds. So why go to clubs? High value people 5-6 years ago were always buying tables. The people with the money were always buying tables. So what I did was I built relationships with girls because I knew high value people wanted females at their table. So I knew if I had access to these females, I could move them with me as friends and be like, hey, you'll get free drinks, you'll get taken care of. I made sure nothing went wrong with them. I made sure these guys were good, and I brought them all into a room. It created value. It's how do you create value in a room that you want to get into? The next step is writers' rounds, where there's a bunch of songwriters and artists that'll go sing 3 to 4 songs that they wrote, and there'll be people in the industry from publishers to labels to other managers that are there and just talk to everybody. Don't look down on them. Don't be like, oh, that artist has nothing. That songwriter doesn't have any credits yet. Talk to everyone. Be nice to everybody. Get phone, get coffees, get lunch. Even if it doesn't lead to anything right away, you never know. 5-6 years, they might have one, and you'll be like, oh, I made friends with him long before that, before he even got to that stage. So build relationships and show value to each of these people. Just be real at the end of the day. Be straight up. Be like, hey, I can do this. I don't know how to do this. But, don't lie about what you can and can't do. But if you don't know how to do it, go figure it out. That's another thing I learned is it's okay to say you know how to do it if you go figure it out how to do it. A lot of people will be like, oh, I know how to do this. And they'll be 5 months in and they'll be like, I have no idea what I'm doing because they never put the work in to learn. So always learn how to do everything. This way, when the time comes, you're a little bit agile. The first deal I really knew I could do this was when I was able to execute a publishing deal and had offers from every major, from Universal to Sony to Warner, and I was able to almost have them negotiate against themselves for this artist. And at this time, my artist had some good, cool credits and had some good streams, and we didn't collect any of the publishing money yet, which was attractive to a lot of these publishers because they knew they could make back the advance that they were going to give us. But being completely honest, he wasn't at the stage where he should have got this mega deal. But if you're able to understand, like I said, the language and what these guys want and what they want to hear, you're able to get them to negotiate against themselves. And the next thing we had was a champion in our corner that was really going to all the publishers saying, he's the next superstar. And this guy was already working at a publishing company. So he helped create this sort of joint venture deal, where a joint venture publishing deal is when you have two companies that you're working with and they both sign you to one deal. So in this instance, it was, it could be a Warner, a Sony, Universal, and then another smaller publisher where your champion is at, right? And you kind of brought them together to create one mega deal where the splits were 50-50 across the board. The splits were good advancement up front, and we were really able to get the splits that we wanted because we were able to have a champion and understand the language and understand what these publishers want out of this deal. So I was proud of that because that took about a year and a half to build. I mean, remember, we're going way back to where the artist had very little monthlies, very little songwriter credits, very little rights at all besides just his inner circle. We had to go and build that over time and get him in the rooms of all the different publishers and write. And now, this only works if the guy's talented. I was lucky. The guy was super talented. He was a very good songwriter, very good at running tracks, and he was able to go to all these publishing companies and write great songs. And these writers liked him. He's a very likable guy. So people were able to connect with him. He was able to get a lot of stories pulled out of them to help create these amazing songs, which built a catalog that we could go to a publisher and say, hey, we have this catalog. We're going to continue to build. Here's our strategy plan long term. Here's our goal to be the longest artist. And here's how we can lay it out for you. And by doing that, publishers came with contracts ready. We had a good lawyer on our team that was a veteran in the space that's executed huge publishing sales, huge deals for all his other artists. So we had the perfect storm, I call it, where we had a manager that understood the language, we had a champion in the industry, we had a great lawyer, and we had an artist that was talented. That's the perfect storm for any great deal. If you have those things, you can get any deal you want in the industry. And after we built on that, I understood once you have a publishing deal, you're able to get a booking agent from the UTAs, the WME, the CAA. They want you to have a partner so then they can work with you as well, and they'll help you book all your shows, your touring, and to strategically build it out, your ticket sales. So start at 100 cap, 300 cap, 500 cap rooms, depending on where you're at, and see how many tickets you can sell. Also, while getting you on support tours to get you in front of audiences of bigger artists that are similar to your style, and get you on festivals, which pay very, very well. Festivals typically do, because when you're first starting off, support tours do not pay well at all. So those are some of the things that I kind of built with this artist, all from one single yes. I said yes to going to a club with a friend, met a girlfriend, which led me to an artist, which led me to many clients down the line, as we'll get into in the next episodes. But it all starts with a yes. That's why I always say the theme of this episode is to say yes. Where I'm at today is really building out strategy plans for artists. I don't manage day to day every single day. I don't manage artists strictly anymore. What I do is I help artists create relationship with people already in the industry. So they'll send me their music, I'll listen to it, and where I see them fit, I'll be honest with them. If I don't like it, I'm gonna tell them, hey, this isn't for me. But they'll send me their songs, and I'll connect them with the right publisher, the right label that I think fits them. Or if it's a social media plan, I'll be hands on with that because I love the social media aspect of growing clients, and I'll teach them the ropes and how to do that kind of stuff, and I'll help build them a strategy plan. But the whole touring with the artist, the whole day-to-day with the artist wasn't for me at this stage of my life. If I find an artist that I'm passionate about, I will go and do that for them. But it's not my one priority at all. My priority is helping artists build their social presence where they can then translate it to streaming on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, etc. Which, as we leave here today, I really want to, thank y'all for taking the time to listen. Obviously, this is my first podcast. There's no team involved. It's just me recording, editing, posting, and really learning this side of things. I've always been the guy behind the camera. This is the first time I'm stepping in front of the camera to really tell my side of things, tell the stories that I've learned, And we'll get into some fun stories, some road trip stories, some touring stories, what I've seen, what artists I've worked with and stuff like that, as much as I can. I don't want to name drop too much as, they don't always want their name out there and stuff like that. So what I will do is I'll be authentic. I'll answer all the questions you guys have. I'll tell my truth. And you can kind of take my advice for a grain of salt. Take it if it helps you. If it doesn't help you, I appreciate you listening. Make sure you hit that like button, that comment button, subscribe button, and comment. Like I said, ask any questions you might have. And enjoy this journey. We're going to try to drop episodes once a week from the manager's chair. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.